Ooh, the tea is exceptionally hot today. Except it's not tea, it's coffee, but you get what I mean. Hey, what's up you guys, it's me Luke and welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. Alrighty guys, so today I decided to go ahead and do another story time for you guys because you guys really seem to enjoy these and I really like making them. I mean, I put my life on the line by telling these stories because they're about other people, but you know, I gotta do what I gotta do to give you guys that good content. But today I decided to go ahead and do a story time about my other psycho roommate because about 2 weeks ago I uploaded my psycho roommate horror story and you guys really enjoyed that, and at the end of it I asked if you guys wanted to, you know more stories about my other psycho roommates, because if you didn't know, I moved out of home when I was 17 for reasons I'm not really going to discuss because, like, you know, emotions. But I'll also go ahead and link the video down below where I speak about how I moved out of home when I was 17 if you want a bit of context, and also go ahead and link down below my psycho roommate horror story if you want to go ahead and watch that, because, you know, it is pretty entertaining if I do say so myself. But this story time today is a lot more intense than that. Enough of this, let's just slide right into it. Just go ahead and make sure you give this video a big fat thumbs up if you enjoy story time, so I know and I can make some more. So without further ado, let's just hop right into the story time. So if you're already up to date with my videos and you watched my How I Moved Out of Home When I Was 17 video, you'll know that I lived in a teen kind of youth accommodation service sort of thing, and it was a share house with a bunch of teens who basically, like me, came from broken homes and needed a place to live. But like I mentioned in those videos, every teen's a bit different, everybody turns to different stuff. Some people turn to food, some people turn to staying in bed all day and just watching Netflix. But some people go a little bit more extreme and turn to drugs, theft, and prostitution. I'll get to that later. But first of all, a little disclaimer, and I hate when YouTubers do disclaimers, but it is needed in this video. If you are the person that the story is about, or you think it's about you, please don't kill me. This is just purely for people's entertainment. I swear nobody's gonna know it's you. I'm not using your real name. I'm keeping it all on the DL. Just, you know, don't come for me. Don't come for me, please. Alright guys, let's get into the story time. So once my roommate who I spoke about in my last video got kicked out, my other roommate who I spoke about moved on to the units, because that's kind of how it works in this youth accommodation service. You go from a share house to a unit, and it's like a whole thing. I was alone in my house for about 2 weeks, which, by the way, having a whole 4-bedroom house to yourself, fucking lit. A little bit lonely, but it was fun. And about 2 weeks later, a new roommate moved in. Let's call her Hannah. So she was really great. I really liked Hannah. In the beginning, I thought she was kind of a bitch, but I feel like that's the way people think of me when they first meet me. So she's kind of one of those people that you're like, well, you're a bitch, but then you like ease into it and you're like, you know, she's okay. So me and her actually ended up being sort of friends. And then the roommate who moved in, who the story time is about, let's call her Shanae. I feel like that's a pretty fitting name. So Shanae moved in, and at first I didn't think anything of her. She was okay. Honestly, I was more worried about Hannah than I was about Shanae in the beginning, to be honest, because Hannah just like seemed like a bitch, like I said, and Shanae was like being so nice, which I later learned was her being manipulative, fake, and just hate it when people are like fake nice. Like, either be a bitch or be nice. Don't be fake nice to me. I'd much rather you be a bitch. Like, be honest, you know what I mean? So she was being super nice to me in the beginning, so I was like, you know, it's all chill. But the thing with these two girls is once they moved in, they were giving me a couple issues. Nothing too hectic. They were just playing music really loud, kind of bringing people over. I had expected this. I knew this was gonna happen. Like, realistically, no one actually follows the rules. So they didn't really eat my food. I didn't really have a problem with that. They didn't give me too much problems. I was like, finally, I'm gonna have some roommates that don't piss me off. Bitch, I was wrong. Let's fast forward. So everything was like seemingly okay. And then they started asking me questions about like who I was and stuff like that. And I like let them in a little bit. And then they let me in a little bit. And we were kind of chatting. They ordered some pizzas. We had some fun. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk to these girls a little bit. And we were chatting. We were having fun. We were living it up. It was really great. But the problem with this is I broke my one rule. You know, my one rule was to keep guarded, keep reserved, and build a wall up in front of me, because the problem is when you're living with strangers, you really don't want to like get too comfortable with them, because then they're going to take advantage of you and shit is just going to hit the fan real quick, honey. And that's what it did. So that was already my first mistake. So these girls became so close. Apparently they knew each other before they even moved in, which, like, what a small world. They were so close. Like, you know those like memes that you see on Instagram where it's like, if you and your best friend aren't even a little bit gay together, are you really best friends? They were like that. They would like get dressed in front of each other, steal underwear from lingerie stores and like try it on and swap. It was like a whole thing. You know, I don't judge. Being that comfortable with your friend, that's awesome. I wish I was that I mean, maybe not that comfortable with my friend, but whatever. And then Shanae started spilling the tea about like what goes on in her life. So she was going to TAFE to study childcare, which, keep this in mind, okay? Keep this in mind throughout the whole entire story time. This girl was studying to work with children. Okay. So once we got more comfortable with each other, we would speak about stuff teenagers spoke about, you know, like sex, alcohol, just like all that type of stuff. So she started talking about how she sends people well, essentially nudes, and gets paid for it. So she was like talking to Hannah, and she was like, oh my god, this guy wants a picture of my feet, like, do I do it? Like, blah blah blah, he's offering me $200. Hannah's like, babe, just do it, just go for it, like, just live your life. She got her coin, and I don't judge. I don't judge. Honestly, you do you, boo. If you want to get your coin through exploiting yourself, I'm honestly not gonna judge. Like, you do you, live your life, get your body out there. Me personally, that's just not how I roll. She did used to walk into other rooms and I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I just had to take a pic of my tits and send it to some guy. And I was like, okay. Also was wondering where their money was going because she basically stole a lot of things. Like, they'd always come back and be like, oh, look what I stole. Like, the thing with stealing is, like, I don't condone it at all, but desperate times call for desperate measures. But when you have money, you're just stealing for the sake of it. You're not stealing necessities. You're stealing fucking lingerie from Victoria's Secret. Like, you don't need to be doing that. But once again, I'm not her mom. I'm not gonna tell her what to do. Like, you live your life, honey. Like I said in my last story time, unless shit starts to directly affect me, I ain't gonna say anything. But then a couple of their friends would come over now and then, which once again, wasn't surprised. But a few of their friends are really rude to me. So I was kind of a little bit uncomfortable. So then I just did what I did with my last roommates. Whenever people came over, I would just kind of stay in my room. I wasn't scared of these people like I were of the lost people in that video, like the drug dealers, but I was just kind of uncomfortable around them. Once again, things weren't too bad. Now, if you watch my previous story time, then you remember that we had a youth worker in the share house who was kind of useless as fuck. But once all of that shit happened with Joe Blow, my last video, he realized that he really needs to get his shit together. So he started to be a lot more proactive in the house. Shanae was starting to get into arguments with him because he'd be like, girls, can you stop screaming? Can you clean this up? Can you do that? Can you do this? So they were getting in trouble for bringing people over, all this type of stuff. Finally, he decided to go ahead and be an actual caretaker. He would have weekly meetings with this caregiver, and he would go ahead and bring up the problems with these girls, and these girls were like, you know, F you. It became like a whole thing. So then drama started getting created in the house because there was this confrontation between the caregiver and these girls, and he would always like use me as an example. And like, I get that I followed the rules and stuff like that, but like, he was painting me to seem like a real freaking angel. He was like, well, Luke doesn't do that, and Luke doesn't do this, and why don't you be like Luke? And like, it's kind of like when your parents compare you to your siblings, like, you're just gonna piss the other person off. And then we get kind of mad at me, and it's like, girls, like, I'm not doing anything. But lo and behold, they still didn't follow the rules. They would still bring people over, and things started to get weird. So one night I was in my room just chilling, vibing, doing my thing, and I went out to go ahead and brush my teeth, and then I saw Shanae walk out. Girl was butt-ass naked with a sheet wrapped around her, and she was like, oh, hi Luke, like as if nothing was going on. And I was like, hi. And she was like, oh, like, how are you? Not even addressing the fact that she's butt-ass naked but still talking to me. And then a guy leaves her room, and I was like, okay. I mean, we're not allowed to have people over, but like, you do you, boo, get your dick. Like, I don't really care, I don't judge. Why do I keep speaking like a sassy black woman? Anyway, wasn't gonna judge, but this kept happening. Guys kept coming over. I don't slut shame. I don't even believe being a slut is really a thing. Like, if you want to sleep around, do what you want, get what you want, do what you do. But I don't know if this is true, alright, so don't get up my ass if it isn't, if you're watching this, but Hannah told me that Shanae was getting paid to have sex with these guys. Now, this is where I draw the line, okay? If you want to send nudes, if you want to be a stripper, if you want to do whatever, do your thing, like get your coin, like that's fine. But I don't know, there's just something about having sex with people for money. Like, even then, it's like, you know what, do whatever you want, but it's just kind of like sad. Like, there are other ways to make money, and it's like, I don't know, like, I really don't want to offend people. If you're a prostitute and you're watching this, like, you do you, honey, get your coin. But this girl was like 16 years old and having sex with like older guys for money, and I just felt really bad for her. Until she started blackmailing people. She would try to get money from guys and be like, oh, like, give me money, like, I have your nudes, all this type of shit. Like, they were just always creating drama, and I was like, girl, just leave people alone. Like, why are you doing this? Never actually said that because, like, once again, I try and avoid confrontation. But then things just started getting weird. Like, more and more weird things started happening. Things started to escalate. I remember one night hearing loud knocking against the window. Didn't think anything of it, but then the next morning Hannah told me that some guys came to the house and they were looking for Shanae because apparently she owed them money or something. Apparently she got drugs from these guys and she didn't pay them, or just something like that. So these are grown-ass men drug dealers coming to the house, knocking on the door in the middle of the night. Honey, I'm gonna be scared, right? And then Hannah tells me that she has a stalker. Now this is where things got really creepy. So one night we saw torches flashing through our windows and we were like, what the fuck is that? And then Hannah was like, oh my god, no, like, he's found me. She said something to that effect, and I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, there's this guy, like, he stalks me. And I was like, bitch, am I in a Tana Mojo video right now? This girl has a stalker. Like, if you thought things couldn't get any worse, we would just be chilling at night and then somebody would be in our yard, like, shining torches in our windows. Do you know how freaking scary that is? And I was like, girl, I feel bad for you. Like, I'm scared for you, hunty, because I liked Hannah. You know, I didn't want anything bad to happen to her. But then one night Hannah came home and she seemed really upset. And I was kind of like, oh, what's wrong? And she's like, this guy fucking tried to rape me. And I was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, I was walking out of work and there was this creepy guy and he started following me and then he grabbed me and I eventually like pulled away and ran away. But she showed me and she had like bruises on her arm, like finger marks, somebody clutched onto her. And I felt so bad for her. Like, I don't know if it was her stalker or somebody else. Now the thing about Hannah is she had quite a big following on social media. Not for like somebody who's like an influencer or whatever, but like she's just a random girl who like posts kind of like sexy pictures on Snapchat or Instagram. But it's like when you put stuff like that out there, and I'm not saying anybody is asking for anything because nobody asked to get raped, nobody asked to get stalked, whatever. But if you're putting out a lot of sexy pictures of yourself, it's inevitable that some creepy guy is gonna like fall in love with you and be like, oh, she's so hot, like I want to be with her, like whatever. And it's inevitable he's gonna like try find you or whatever. And I later found out that she had her Snap Map location on, and I was like, girl, are you a fucking idiot? That's it about Hannah. You know what, Hannah, if you're watching this, like literally no tea, no shade. You were a really great girl. Like, we had a lot of fun together. She was really fun to talk to. It was a good friendship while it lasted. I just was worried for her. Hope she's doing well. But now to who the story is really about. So one day I got home from school and Hannah told me that Shanae broke into the caregiver's unit, and apparently she crawled through the dog door or something and she like broke into his unit and stole a bunch of his things. And not only did she steal his things, but she kicked his dog. Already he had a dog, a really cute fucking dog. I freaking love that dog. And the dog was obviously barking because she was breaking into his home, and she kicked the dog. And the poor dog was like limping for days after, and the caregiver didn't know why because I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to cause any confrontation. I eventually did say something, but not in the beginning because I was just kind of worried about what would happen. But she broke into this guy's unit just because he told her to like stop yelling and clean up and all this type of stuff. And she stole phones, she stole GoPros, she stole watches, she stole a bunch of shit. And when Hannah told me this, she was like, I don't know what to do, like we're friends, I don't want to like get her in trouble or whatever, like I don't want to ruin our friendship. And I was like, girl, like we have to tell the caregiver, like she can't get away with this. We eventually did tell him, and then this is when shit just hit the fan, okay? So Shanae did not know that Hannah told me, right? Shanae did not know that I told the caregiver. She just thought that the caregiver found stuff missing in his apartment and assumed it was her. And then she tried to twist it and turn it around and make it seem like Hannah was the one who broke in there and stole stuff. So this is when shit really got bad. She was trying to manipulate me. She was like, yeah, like, Luke, I need to tell you something. And I was like, oh, okay, what is it? And she was like, the other day, Hannah broke into the caregiver's unit and stole a bunch of his things. Like, I didn't want to say anything because we're friends, but like basically said exactly what Hannah said to me. And I was like, bitch! But I'm a good actor, so I was like, oh my god, that's horrible. Like, why would she do that? But she was basically lying, manipulating me, trying to make me go on her side and go against Hannah. But I already knew that it was Shanae because I knew all of this stuff about Shanae that she'd done in the past. Like, she'd stolen cars in the past or whatever. All stuff that I've heard. So I don't know if it's factual, it's just what I've heard. But she stole a bunch of his things and then tried to make it seem like it was Hannah, and then her and Hannah didn't become friends. Like, they started getting mad at each other and it was like a lot of beef. And because these girls were so close in the beginning, they had a lot of their stuff in each other's room. And then when Shanae wasn't home one day, Hannah went into her room and found a bunch of her stuff in her room. Stuff that like Shanae had taken from her room. Like expensive jewelry that her grandmother had given to her. Like all this type of makeup that she had like just taken from her room without her permission. Like she didn't leave it in there. Hannah told me, she was like, Luke, I didn't want to tell you this because I know how you are about your space. Like I always kept my bedroom door locked. I didn't want anybody in there. Like that was my space. Apparently she stole the keys from the caregiver's unit and opened my room and went in my room. Apparently she didn't take anything, but the fact that she was in my room without my permission when I wasn't there just made me feel so uncomfortable. Like that's my personal space. That is such an invasion of privacy. Like how dare you? Sorry, I'm getting a bit heated, but it just, oh fuck, it makes me so angry. So eventually they investigated it a bit more, and eventually the youth workers spoke to Shanae, and it was like a whole big thing, and they were going to kick her out. Now it was really difficult kicking her out because she like refused to go, and they had to remove her stuff, and they had to change the locks in the house, and it was a whole mission, a whole thing, and Shanae was like threatening Hannah, but eventually Shanae got kicked out. So we were like, oh, finally things will be okay, like things will get sorted. But obviously the police had to get involved because she stole his things and she never returned it. So the police were showing up to our house asking us a bunch of different questions, and I don't know if they ever retrieved any of the stuff or anything because they couldn't find her. Hannah gave the police Shanae's brother's address and they went there. I'm not entirely sure what happened there, but I really don't think anything was really resolved in terms of that situation. But the police said that they were going to come to our house, you know, every now and then to go ahead and check up, like do kind of rounds at night, because Shanae had been sending threatening texts to Hannah. I remember she sent this one text to her that like gave me chills when I read it, and Hannah was constantly so scared, and I felt bad for her. Like she was scared to leave the house. So Shanae texted Hannah and she was like, how could you? We were friends. You're such a snitch. Blah, blah, blah. Then Shanae texted Hannah and she was like, you better watch out and sleep with one eye open because when I'm done with you, you'll be eating food out of a straw. Jesus, take the wheel! Did you hear what I just said? This bitch threatened to mess her up so much that she wouldn't be able to move. She'd be a fucking vegetable eating out of a straw. So Hannah called the police and she showed them the text and the police still weren't really taking it seriously. I feel like they just don't take shit seriously unless somebody's actually dying, you know what I mean? So they didn't really take shit seriously until this happened. So one day Hannah and I, we were walking home together, just chilling, chatting, doing our thing, and then we came to the house and the front door was open. We had locked it and we were like, this is weird. Maybe like one of the youth workers came and forgot to lock it. And then we saw that there was like a scrape mark where like the key goes in. And I was like, that's weird. And we opened it and we walked in and there was a giant hole in Hannah's bedroom door. Now we kept our bedroom doors locked, but her door had been kicked in and there was a giant hole, and we walked in there and her entire bedroom had been trashed, like absolutely destroyed. Like things had been thrown all over the place, things had been broken, stuff was all over the floor. It was an absolute mess. It smelled really chemically, so we think that Shanae had like poured bleach or just something all over the place. It was disgusting. And you want to know the grossest part? If you get really queasy, like skip ahead or some shit. There were used pads and used tampons sprinkled around the room. If that ain't the grossest thing you've ever heard, then I don't know what is, because I was fucking shook. I was like, oh my god. Like, it's one thing that you broke into our house, it's another thing that you broke into Hannah's bedroom, it's another thing that you trashed the bedroom, but the fact that you put your used tampons and used pads all over the floor, you're a fucking animal. Like, that is disgusting. Actually, you know what? That's not fair to animals. That is appalling. How? I didn't even want to know the logic. Like, did she store those and put them on the floor? Did she, like, was she on her period and was just kind of like, what did she do? I don't want to know. So eventually we called the police because we were like, this bitch just broke into our house. So the police came and they did like the whole fingerprinty thing. Kind of felt like an episode of CSI, if I'm honest. But it was kind of scary. I was like, this bitch broke into our house. Like, she's crazy. I felt bad for Hannah. You know, Shanae was actually threatening her life. I just felt so bad for her. So police were like circling, doing their thing, trying to figure out how to keep us safe, doing police reports. They kept trying to find her, but really nothing was happening. One day I was walking home and I saw Shanae on the street, like near our house, and she saw me and like walked away. So I think she was gonna go back to her house and break in. But eventually, kind of the way that this was resolved is I was gonna move into the units anyway because I was about to graduate, and Hannah got moved into their other share house. Shanae wouldn't know where she lived, so she felt safe. So we both left and I never heard of Shanae again. But that's it for this story time. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please give it a big thumbs up because I'm pretty scared uploading this, I'm not gonna lie. Shanae, if you do find this and you're watching this, please do not come for me, please, please. I hope you're living your life. I hope you've really turned over a new leaf. Hannah, if you're watching this, I hope you're doing well. That's it for this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below anything that you want from me or what you thought of this video. Go ahead and check out my previous story time, which I'll link down below, and also my how I moved out of home when I was 17 video if you want to know that. If you want to go ahead and follow all of my social medias, I will go ahead and link them down below. And if you have not already, please go ahead and click that subscribe button because I make 2 new videos every single week, and make sure you turn on my post notifications bell so that you're notified every time I upload another video. Alrighty guys, that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in my next one, and I hope that you have a great day or night wherever you're in the world. Bye! Shanae, if you're watching this, please don't kill me.